There's kind of a guidebook for every stage of life, through pregnancy, birth to 5, through high school, but there's not really a guidebook for aging.
How do we help the family members realize that maybe it is time to look at some different sort of living arrangements? How do you have that conversation with dad to say, you really shouldn't be driving a car anymore?
Many of them have worked so hard their whole lives, but something has happened, whether it's the economic crises or recessions, and so the finances just aren't there for them.
I think we have so many stereotypes about aging, right? Thinking that aging is about disability and decline and becoming lonely and isolated. We know that 93% of people 65 and older live at home and in their communities.
We're all aging, and so we all need to be aware of this and how we can create our communities to last for a lifetime.
We take a multifaceted approach to aging well.
We're here to be part of that team to help answer some of those questions, to help open up your mind or give you some ideas of what can be.
Knowledge really is power. So when people know where to turn, they feel more empowered and they feel safer aging in place and independently and in the ways that they want to.
One gentleman called. He was very, very discouraged financially. He was really struggling, and he just told me how alone he felt and how he didn't have a lot of hope. And through our conversation, I was able to, first of all, listen, which was his biggest need, also point him to resources for housing, for financial assistance, for even some counseling help. By the end of the call, he was so grateful. He said, you offered me hope, and that's what I needed.
I had a call from a person who his native language was not English. He was at the pharmacy trying to pick up his prescription drug plan. His Medicare just started June 1st, but he didn't have his Medicare cards yet. Intuitively, I knew what questions to ask him. I was able to call him back. Within about 25 minutes, he had his prescriptions and he was done.
Currently, I'm focused on our age-friendly community work, supporting now about 10 different communities to help identify some of the gaps and then develop action plans and creative solutions like accessory dwelling units. We're also looking at programs like home sharing and exploring whether or not that would be feasible.
I did a falls prevention class in a local independent senior living, and one of the class members went to her resident council and advocated for there to be kind of like a buddy check-in system through the phones at their apartment building, and they actually went ahead and created that system just because of her showing up to that meeting and advocating for what they needed.
It's heartbreaking to hear the stories, but it's great to know that we might prevent those for folks that maybe didn't know about a certain scam, and we were the folks that helped them understand the different tenets of that scam and what to look out for.
It really just fills my bucket, I guess you can say, to know that I can be that encourager, that I can help another human being feel that they still have a purpose.
It gives me goosebumps right now just thinking about it. I think that one of the most impactful things that you can do is helping people become empowered and to advocate for themselves.
Is there an easy button all the time? Not necessarily, but you work toward finding a solution.
My kind of a pie in the sky dream from our organization is that we can really create a cultural shift towards how we view aging.
We're actually all aging from the moment we're born to the moment that we die. Aging is living, no matter what.
Yeah.
There's kind of a...
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Brenda Schaefer-Pellinan. My pronouns are she and her. By the way of a physical description, I am a middle-aged Caucasian cisgender woman with an auburn pixie cut wearing a black and white horizontal striped shirt. I'm joined today in the chat and on our technology by my colleague, Ashley Craiglow, also with the Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging. We'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us for today's session on supportive decision making. So before we start, well, wait a second, we're gonna take care of a few housekeeping items. We are excited to announce that today's webinar will be accessible to a wider audience. We have arranged for American Sign Language interpreters who will be present throughout the session. These interpreters will rotate, ensuring that everyone can follow the content effectively. Additionally, we are recording the entire webinar with ASL interpretation. The recordings will be available later on our YouTube channel. Whether you attend the live session or you catch up later, you'll have the opportunity to engage with the content in a way that suits your needs. I encourage you to subscribe to our channel so that you can keep up with the latest additions to our video library. We are always looking for suggestions for future webinar topics. If you have suggestions for topics or speakers, you can feel free to send those to us, and we'll share that email address in the chat. Please keep your microphone set to mute. Just a quick note, if you experience any issues with your bandwidth or audio quality, it often helps to disable your camera. If you'd like, you can enter your first name and the organization or community that you're from in the chat box, what you're hoping to get out of today's session, and how you found it. If you have any questions during today's session, please feel free to enter your question into the chat and we will address them at the end of the presentation. We'll also take some additional questions at that time. At the end of the close of today's session, you're going to see a quick evaluation that will pop up on your screen. That helps us, please take a moment and complete the survey. It helps us greatly when planning future sessions. One last quick reminder to visit our Facebook page for information about other upcoming sessions, such as our October session on navigating transit in the Arrowhead region and our November session on estate planning. You can also check out our website at arrowheadaging.org. So just a little bit about our agency. At the Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging, we are designated by the Minnesota Board on Aging as the Area Agency on Aging for the Planning and Service Area under the authority of the Title III of the Older Americans Act. The Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging is committed to helping older adults maintain their highest level of independence. Area agencies on aging are regional organizations that provide services, support, information, just about everything that older adults and families and caregivers might need. Minnesota has 7 area agencies on aging across the state that are local connections to older Minnesotans and the community supports they may need as they age. The Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging service area designated by the Board on Aging includes Aiken County, Carlton County, Cook, Itasca, Koochiching, Lake, and St. Louis counties. Now I would like to take just a moment to read our Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging land acknowledgement. As we support our mission to help older adults maintain their highest level of independence, we do this while being respectful of the space that we are being welcomed into by Indigenous people. We strive to deepen our understanding of the multiple ways in which people see and understand land and acknowledge the Indigenous people who have relationships with this land. We also acknowledge the decades of historical trauma, loss, and grief experienced by Indigenous people. It is our promise to not only recognize these truths, but to take action to show support of our Indigenous elders, neighbors, and friends, and understand our place within the past, present, and future of this land. We know that this is just one step in recognizing and honoring the sovereignty of tribal nations. So we are honored to be joined today by today's presenter, Ryan Boosinger. Ryan is a dedicated human services professional and doctoral candidate with over 2 decades of experience advancing programs that support health equity and person-centered care. With a strong foundation in both public and private sectors, Ryan has led initiatives that improve outcomes for vulnerable populations through thoughtful project design, stakeholder collaboration, and data-informed solutions. Ryan holds a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Minnesota and a Master of Arts from St. Mary's University. Known for leaning in, empathetic leadership, and systems-level thinking, Ryan continues to advocate for inclusive service delivery methods models that promote dignity, autonomy, and well-being for all. So welcome, Ryan. I'm going to turn things over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Let's see. Now, do you see me or do you see a sloth? Which is probably a funny question.
I was going to say that's
all of the above.
Not sure.
Okay. So if I am in, well, so long as you can see me, this is a very conversational presentation. So I just want to keep it open to questions as they come in. I'm happy to be interrupted. I think that engagement is always the best way to learn. So feel free to talk if you feel the need to get a question answered. I'm happy to answer it. So thank you for welcoming me. I'm very happy to be here. Again, my name is Ryan Boosinger. I use he, him pronouns, and by way of description, I am a white male with short red hair and a short beard. I've been with Lutheran Social Service for about 7 years now to a variety of capacities. I currently am the Senior Program Manager of Supported Decision Making under our Aging and Adult Services line, which works in tandem with guardianship, pooled trusts, and senior companions. Uh, it's always important to note that LSS is a very large organization, and Aging and Adult Services is only one branch of an incredibly enduring tree. So we're celebrating our 160th birthday this year. So I note the size because I don't want people leaving associating LSS with only this collection of services. We do a lot. We do housing, behavioral health, reentry programs. There are a lot of opportunities for problem solving with LSS that lie outside of this conversation. So I'll also add again that I am a fellow in a doctoral program for human services with a focus on gerontology. So this world is very much in my arena, and I get really excited about supported decision making and this particular line of problem solving. So just a little background here. We, Lutheran Social Service of Minnesota, were graciously awarded a grant through the state that is allowing us the ability to develop, to implement and assess supported decision-making programming, which is something that's been around for quite some time as a service model, but it hasn't really gotten legs as a business model. And that's largely because there hasn't been a way to monetize it. So while it has been effective in helping those with whom it's been applied, it's not been effective in keeping a business or a nonprofit afloat, at least as it's been traditionally developed, right? So that's where you come in. We're looking to take what works in this arena of supported decision making and take what's effective to those it serves and make it operational, right? So it can be utilized as a functional framework with a forward moving momentum. We want to get this into the community, and that starts with word of mouth and starts with knowledge and education. So we're working on establishing a way to apply these principles of supported decision making in a way that benefits those supported thereby, while also providing value to those service communities in which they are supported. So these are the counties, this is the state, these are insurers, these are the AAAs, these are the healthcare systems, right? And largely, we're anchoring that to the prevention or delay or reduction or removal of guardianship and or conservatorship where it could or has been applied. So we could call this the maintenance and or the reinstatement of autonomy, right? Which that's a mouthful, I know. I'd prefer to call it appropriately aligning rights to the person when it comes to decision making. So alignment is the overarching theme of what we do. So I also want to make sure that we're working with a shared understanding of guardianship and conservatorship, which is that legal loss of the ability to make one's own decisions as per the direction of the court, and the replacement of those rights with a substitute decision maker, that's the guardian. Or in the case of assets and finances, that's the conservator. So it's important to note that guardianship is a necessary and beneficial tool for many people served thereby, although I'll say that many served thereby might be capable of adjustments with the proper support. So we just want to make sure that the least restrictive options available have been tried before taking this, what could be seen as an extreme approach. So that's what I'm going to be talking about here. So let's dig in, starting with what supported decision making is. So We often get calls that kind of liken supported decision making to a Dear Abby, right? That this supported decision making facilitator is someone who comes in and solves the problem, telling people what's the best course of action and how to make that happen. It's very bossy and take charge, right? And that is simply not the case. We do not do that. Supported decision making really leans into a person's own resources. If those resources aren't identified or aren't established, we will help to build that network up. This is developing the skills of decision making where maybe they hadn't been developed prior to this more focused approach. It's very intentional. So, supported decision making is a progressive approach that offers an alternative to guardianship by enabling individuals with disabilities or other challenges, and typically those are cognitive, to maintain control over their own lives and decisions. And that's rather than going to court to remove an individual's legal right to make decisions and replacing that right with a substitute decision maker, transferring that authority to a guardian. Supported decision making creates a collaborative framework where the individual remains at the center of the decision making process. So they stay in control and they are supported. So through this model, individuals receive personalized support from trusted people in their lives. So this is family members, this is friends or professionals who help them understand their options and weigh the potential outcomes. They help them make their own choices and communicate those choices effectively. And then they help come back and assess them, asking, how did it go? What was that outcome? Did you like it? So really, this is a simple cycle of decision making. We piece it out and we take it step by step with the person served. So this approach is rooted in autonomy, and it's designed to empower individuals by providing tools and strategies and building those networks needed to navigate decisions related to the various aspects of their life, right? So this could include healthcare decisions. This could include finances or education. This could include, and often does include, relationship management. So supported decision making, it recognizes that everyone, regardless of their abilities, can make meaningful decisions when provided with the appropriate support and respect for their preferences. So this is a very large umbrella that we're working with, right? It's consisting of everything on the spectrum of autonomy up to the point of plenary or full guardianship, right? Plenary is the whole gauntlet of just everything. Your decisions are taken away from you. So this includes the beginning point, which is no guardianship on that spectrum. So full autonomy. So something to remember is that we all take part in supported decision making every single day. So examples. When my car breaks down, I look for input from my parents, maybe, and my mechanic because I know nothing about cars. I would make horrible decisions if I just started fiddling around under that hood, right? When I'm buying a house, I talk to my realtor. I talk to my realtor about all sorts of things. I talk about the neighborhood. I talk about the market. I talk about potential risks. I talk to my friends about potential areas in which it might be nice to live. I show pictures of homes that I'm looking at, and I ask for opinions. When I'm thinking about a vacation, I talk with those in my orbit about their experiences. What are the costs? What are the restaurants I should try? What are the activities? What are the recommendations? What should I try? When I'm facing a difficult situation, I find someone to talk to about it. Should I pursue higher education is another question. Where should I go to school? What should I do about the failing health of a pet? Now, these are all very simplified but relatable examples of supported decision making. Again, identifying the issue at hand, seeking input from trusted supporters, processing that input and making a decision, then assessing the outcomes and deciding whether that is a decision that would be repeated. And if so, or if not, why? So supported decision making, the slogan is we all do it, right? So there are many benefits to supported decision making. So supported decision making promotes independence. It encourages individuals to make their own decisions, enhancing self-esteem and overall quality of life. So loss of autonomy is strongly linked to increased risks of depression and poorer health outcomes. And this connection becomes especially critical for individuals placed under guardianship. So studies show that autonomy is a fundamental psychological need. And when that is restricted, individuals are more likely to experience helplessness, isolation, and a decline in mental well-being. So in guardianship contexts, especially for older adults or persons with disabilities, this enforced dependency often correlates with increased depressive symptoms, lower quality of life, and decreased engagement in health-promoting behaviors. So loss of control has been shown to intensify that negative impact of physical symptoms like pain or fatigue, meaning that that guardianship is intended to protect may face worsened outcomes without those supports that preserve or restore decision-making capacity. So therefore, even in cases where guardianship is necessary, promoting supported decision-making models rather than full removal of autonomy may better protect both mental and physical health. So alternately, supported decision-making improves outcomes. So research also suggests that supported decision-making enhances decision-making skills and leads to better health, improved financial situations, and sometimes improved social outcomes, all depending, of course, on the situation faced by those served. Beyond that, this is an inclusive approach, and it respects the individual's preferences. So this ensures that all individuals have equitable access to opportunity, processes, and belonging. More directly, supported decision-making reduces guardianships. It minimizes the need for guardianships. So this, of course, comes with all these human aspects of wellness and betterment. But what's more, guardianship often comes with a price tag, especially from the perspective of counties and healthcare systems, let alone the individuals and their families, in the form of caregiving. So we're reducing financial pressures, we're reducing strain on the workforce, and we're reducing strain on caregivers. So key features of supported decision-making are that it's person-centered. The individual remains the decision maker. They're in the driver's seat. They're that decision maker with support tailored to their specific needs and their specific preferences. And much the same, it's self-directed. So those served, again, are in the driver's seat and remain in control of their own lives, making their own decisions. It's important to note that not every decision has to be a good one. We have all made bad decisions in our life. What's important is that we learn from those choices and we use that information down the road to feed back into this decision-making cycle. Would I do that again? Yes or no? Another feature of supported decision-making is flexibility. There is no one-size-fits-all in life. This support can vary depending on the person or the situation. The circumstances of supported decision-making can be, again, medical or financial. This could be around personal life choices or living arrangements. Supported decision-making intentionally fits the needs of the person as self-directed by that person. Supported decision-making engages trusted supporters. So who we're talking about here, again, are those family members, those friends, or professionals. And I want to clarify to a certain extent that those professionals can act as supporters, assisting by providing information, helping to weigh out options, or even communicating those decisions. So when I'm clarifying those professionals, I'm not talking about personal case managers or therapists, people who shouldn't be providing that input, but I'm talking about, the mechanic I mentioned earlier, professionals in the orbit of care that are not directly working to serve the person in question, but more the experts who might be able to weigh in on the questions at hand. So another aspect is that supported decision-making, and this is very important, it's that it's legally recognized, right? what's important about this is that SDM, supported decision making, matters to a court system. So when considering guardianship or conservatorship, a court is expected to account for the less restrictive measures that have been attempted. Now, the courts might not always have the time or the resources to do this. Sometimes they don't even know that they're supposed to do that, but this is the expectation. Further, having a supported decision-making agreement, an SDMA, you'll hear it called, in place can offer evidence that alternative measures have been secured, and that can work to defend someone from an unnecessary guardianship. Alternately, it can work to show that alternative measures are not working. So again, this is all about alignment, making sure that the rights restriction is appropriate as a last resort. Have you tried something else? Did it work? If it didn't, maybe guardianship is that right tool for this person. So if it is the right tool for this person, are there other tweaks that we can make to it to make sure that we are indeed looking at the least restrictive option available? Now, I'm going to pause here and insert again that there are many situations, and this is kind of a mantra, in which guardianship is a necessary and beneficial support to those served thereby. I am not in any way casting a shadow on it as an instrument of support. What I do question is the visible uptick in usage of it as a tool and the sometimes ham-fisted speediness with which it is applied. So supported decision-making, we seek to align service and need with the safety and the right to autonomy, right? If guardianship is the appropriate tool, evidence will support that decision. So the question then becomes, how does it work? So in the traditional model, which again has been around for a very long time, the first step is to establish a support network. Identify trusted individuals, again, who can assist in decision making, and we're assigning them to certain appropriate roles in their lives. So again, I'm talking to my mechanic about cars because again, I know nothing about cars. I'm talking to my mom and dad about my house, but I'm not talking to them about my love life because that would be weird, right? For me, I'm talking with my brother about my healthy friendships. I'm talking with my aunt and my house manager about my job because I want to keep my job. That's very important to me. I have plans in place for each of these circumstances. We've thought through what could happen, and we know where we can go if we have a situation that we need to resolve. There's an outline, and I'm prepared to follow it. That is the information that we use to create that SDMA, that supported decision-making agreement. So again, this is the document that outlines the types of decisions where support is needed, and we pick that up and we look for the selected supporters that will assist in whatever the given situation is. And this is a map. So supported decision making is kind of cartography for our social structure and learning where to go when we have an issue and how we can resolve that. So we then use that map to implement our plan. So we use the agreement as a guide when making decisions, ensuring that the individual remains central to and active within this process. And then we adjust it as needed. Did this work? We talked about flexibility. Is this appropriate? Did I go to the right person for this? And how was that input? Did that discussion go well? Do I need to make changes here? We can revise the agreement over time as the individual's needs or circumstances change. Now, this is the traditional model, and I would work to build upward from this to incorporate the tools of supported decision-making. And when we talk about the tools of supported decision-making, we're referring to the more informal supports, right? And this could include even decision-making aids like playing language guides or education around decision-making. This could include visual aids and checklists or tools to help break down these complex decisions. This could include technology that supports in communication, or in some cases, it can mean advocacy. This could mean education and awareness advocacy. For the purposes of this discussion, I'd like to lean more into the legal mechanisms that could help to make informed decisions while maintaining that autonomy. So that SDMA and some other tools, such as power of attorney, that can come in handy, or rep payee services. This could be a healthcare directive or a healthcare agent. This could be something as simple as a signed release of information or education around the application of guardianship. You know, if you're looking for a guardian, is a guardian really what you're looking for? Do you understand what that means? You know, I was working with someone who their son had issues in the middle of the night, and they wanted the guardian to be on call for their son at 2 a.m. so they could come and resolve this. And I said, that's not what a guardian does. So maybe guardianship isn't what you're looking for. And it was just that simple conversation to make sure that what they were looking for was aligned with what they would be getting if they pursued that path. So again, we are looking to align guardianship to the person served, making sure that the need fits the tool that's being applied to it. So I'd like to dig into some of these more specific pieces that you've probably heard about applied to this situation, like power of attorney. So what is a power of attorney? This gets kind of tossed around loosey-goosey a lot. So really, a power of attorney is a legal document that allows a principal, that's the person who's served by the document, to assign an attorney-in-fact, who's oftentimes called the POA or the power of attorney. That's the person who's acting upon the document, to speak and act for the person served regarding their legal and financial needs, should they become unable to speak for themselves, or immediately, depending on how you set them up. These are very flexible and can be handcrafted, and you have to be careful in that crafting. So in this context, the POA is able to step in and make sure someone's bills are getting paid, or to a certain extent that their appropriate benefits are being applied for and or being monitored. There are tools that can do that outside of the POA, so you want to make sure that you're applying, again, the right tools. In some situations, support can be provided around housing. In a lighter context, this could be a simple financial literacy without the need for a full POA. What's nice about a power of attorney document is it's called the statutory short form that applies the power of attorney. It can be crafted to the needs of the individual. There are very specific terms, specific questions that carve out what kind of support can be provided, when it can be provided, and to what capacity, on top of what, or on top of who is put in charge of those decisions. So it is very clear legally who can step in, when they can step in, what they can do, and why. And you want to make sure, you know, I would always recommend talking with an attorney before you move forward with that. Otherwise, you can get your account wiped out. This is important. So you don't want to just use POAs lightly, right? Another tool is a healthcare directive, and these are very important to me. If you do not have one, you should be talking to me about that. A healthcare directive outlines a person's wishes should they be unable to speak for themselves as to their healthcare decisions, and the healthcare agent is the person named in that document to make those decisions for them. In some states, a power of attorney and a healthcare agent are the same thing. Not in Minnesota, though. These are separate tools in Minnesota. So that said, in the arena of healthcare, they function very similarly, and they serve very similar functions around benefits and healthcare monitoring, and sometimes housing, sometimes, and so forth. If you don't have a healthcare directive, know that it is a personal mission of mine to get Minnesotans on them, and I have the means to make it fun. So if you're interested, again, please reach out to me. Both of these tools are about enacting your voice when you do not have a voice. And both of these tools do so proactively. So there may come a time when you are unable to speak for yourself, whether that, you know, in many cases, this will be in this context, in the case of cognitive concerns or memory loss or dementia, or, you know, there's a lot of things that can come into play. If you have said, this is what I want to have happen, if later in life I'm unable to speak toward these needs. So you just refer to these documents, and you know that these documents will act as your voice when you are unable to act on it. So this is all a proactive approach that will keep your voice intact. Another tool is a limited guardianship. And a limited guardianship is a guardianship in which a guardian is appointed to support but with specific areas of their life where they need the support while the individual retains decision-making authority in the other areas. So it's a less restrictive alternative to the full or plenary guardianship. It gives a little more balance and a little more accuracy to guardianship as it pertains to the person served. So it better aligns with the need, and many people don't realize that guardianship doesn't have to be all or nothing. So more on that in a little bit here. An emergency guardianship is a tool of supported decision-making, and that's almost, this is probably a bad term, but it's almost like a test run. So it's a guardianship with an end date. So they're temporary and they're designed to address time-sensitive situations while providing short-term protections. So think of someone who's lacking in capacity while they are hospitalized. They need support in getting through that transition, but that transition also requires them to make life-changing decisions. So without capacity, someone has to make those calls. The expectation is that a less restrictive option is attempted, but if that is not available, emergency guardianship might be the resort. So again, these are limited in duration, and at the end of that duration, they may be dropped in full, or they may be moved into a plenary state. So supported decision-making would work with those under emergency guardianship to avoid plenary when possible. So while we're talking about limited guardianship and emergency guardianship, something that often goes missing from this conversation is the list of specific rights that are lost to guardianship. So I want to make sure that we touch upon those. Again, many think of guardianship as an all or nothing, but the reality is that there are 10 rights to decision making that are removed from the person and put into the hands of a substitute decision maker. And they may not all need to be removed. So the court can pick and choose based on the recommendation and based on the need. So guardianship can and should be handcrafted to align to the needs of the person served. So let's talk about those 10 powers. They are the power of abode, in which a guardian helps those served choose where they live to ensure that they are in a safe and supported home. Care, needs, and comfort. A guardian shall do what they can to make sure those served have the things they need, like food, clothes, medical care, and social connections. Property. A guardian will help make sure that belongings, clothes, furniture, and oftentimes gaming systems, etc., are cared for to the best of their ability. Medical consent. A guardian works with those served to give consent for medical treatment and gives permission to doctors and other medical professionals so they can receive the care and support they need. Contracts. A guardian has the authority to sign contracts that may affect them. Then this can be rental leases or credit card applications or car loans and so forth. Supervision. A guardian can protect those served by limiting their rights or access to people who may harm them. This happens when there are health or safety concerns or safety concerns around abuse or neglect, right? Benefits. A guardian can help apply for and maintain public assistance and funding. The right to vote, which is very interesting. Sometimes the right to vote can be restricted by the court, but unless specified by court order, a person retains the right to vote. So speaking from experience, this caveat is sometimes overlooked. So it's always worth it to make sure that this is addressed appropriately when guardianship is applied, which is another great aspect of supported decision-making, having someone come in and take this fine-tooth comb to the experience of guardianship to make sure, hey, did you know this is what happened? Are you okay with that? How do you feel like that? Would you like to see this changed? Let's do it. So ABLE accounts is another one. Guardian can set up a special ABLE account for money so those served can qualify for benefits. And then finally, legal protection. A guardian can start legal proceedings on behalf of those served. They can represent those served regarding concerns such as having any criminal records sealed or in cases of harassment and in any civil court proceedings. So ultimately, why should you care? right? Well, ultimately, there are very likely intersections of service in which we will engage, especially considering the aging population. I think of the need for proactive establishment of services that can help to delay or avoid altogether the need for guardianship, and that points directly to those tools I was speaking about. So, on a larger scale, education and awareness, just this conversation. Knowledge is power. So, especially when we want to identify risk early and mitigate that risk early. So, if you take nothing else from this conversation, just consider the question of what can we do to prevent or delay guardianship? Or what can we do to reduce or remove unnecessary rights restrictions where they have been applied? So that's my spiel. So I'd love to ask if there are any questions.
If anyone's got questions, please feel free to just take yourself off mute, or if you feel more comfortable, you can feel free to put those in the chat and we can take it from there.
Yeah. And if there are no questions and if there's time, I'd be happy to talk about some of the things that LSS is doing to employ supported decision-making throughout the Minnesotan community.
I think that would be great.
Yeah. No.
Well, we can always move on to, and if folks think of something in the time, we can
Sure
take a moment before we wrap things up.
Yeah, right on. So we have a few lines of service that we are employing just as pilots to again, get supported decision making. It's about education and awareness, but also building up these pilots throughout the Minnesotan community. So one line that we're working on is rooted in that education and awareness. And we began by focusing on young adults. So we found that the narrative for caregiving units and family units of those who are 16 and 17 who are looking at turning 18, their caregiving units were seeing that and saying, oh my gosh, they're turning 18, they're going to have their right to decision making, and we are worried about that. So they talked to those in the orbit. These are the teachers, these are attorneys, these are medical professionals, and the awareness around that is just that, well, what you need to do is get a guardian. And that's the only point of conversation. So what we sought to do was put our foot in the door of that conversation, right? We didn't want the door to close on their rights. We wanted to say, have you heard about some other stuff? So that's where we talked about these other opportunities, signing ROIs, getting a healthcare directive in place, having a power of attorney just as backups. Or if we were going to go the path of guardianship, what is it you're concerned about? And what are the things that, a guardianship would actually accomplish? Making sure that conversation is taking place. So we're hosting webinars, we are hosting seminars, we are hosting just educational models that we are throughout the state. This worked for the 16 and 17-year-olds, but also what we noticed is that this applied to older adults, families whose parents or their loved ones were experiencing early memory concerns, and they were looking at the potential for guardianship, and it was the same conversation. So why not educate around that? If instead of taking away that right to decision making, let's put other tools in place and have that conversation to make sure that you are fully aware of the resources available to you that don't involve paying an attorney to go to court and have someone strip someone you love of their right to decision making. So we offer that consultation, and in that we can sit down with you and have an SDMA completed, and that would be the deliverable of that program. We also offer restoration. So if you are someone who is under guardianship, or someone who is under guardianship, we can work with them to take that fine-tooth comb to the guardianship, seeing, okay, what rights have been removed? How do you feel about that? Do you understand why they have been removed? Would you like to take a look at reinstating any of those? Now, that doesn't mean that we can reinstate them, but it means that we can work toward it, which means saying, for example, I think I should be able to choose where I want to live. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that for the next 6 weeks where I'm going to come in here and we're going to see, have you kept your place clean? Have you cooked your own meals? Have you had positive relationships with your community? And taking care of all the things that would mean, being able to pick where you want to live and live in a safe environment, right? And then we are compiling that evidence, and then we would help build a petition and we would put that in front of the court. The reality is that if you are under guardianship, you can petition for reinstatement of rights whenever you want. So we are just kind of helping build the evidence to support that that possibility. So we are not saying that you will get your right back. We were saying we will help you build your evidence. And if that evidence is there, we will help you put that in front of a judge. And it's up to the judge to decide. It's up to the guardian to agree. They are the decision makers here, but we can help you work on yourself. So even if it's a no, that autonomy, that work on yourself, that work toward yourself is there, right? And if it's a no, we can take a closer look as to why it was a no. And then we can point toward these are things that we can work on. If you really want this to be your goal, let's fold these other aspects into the conversation, right? So restoration is another program that we can work with people on. We also do advanced care planning, and this is that healthcare directive stuff. One, my goal is to get Minnesotans on healthcare directives. So we have a program that will come and talk to you about the importance of healthcare directives. And I hear that you have one as well, which is fantastic. We also have someone that will sit with you and complete these healthcare directives. So if you would like to iron those out and get the completed document at the end of that conversation, we can do that with you. In some aspects, we can apply, or we can act as the healthcare agent. So there are many people out there who do not have that person that can act in that capacity. LSS can act in that capacity in many circumstances. So if you're looking for someone, we might fit the bill for you. There also is advanced care planning for persons who may be experiencing early memory concerns or early diagnoses, where it becomes a more intensive conversation that might need some more resources fit into the mix. So we consider the conversation of advanced care planning and the build of a healthcare directive as a springboard into a greater conversation of connectivity. So if you are concerned about these aspects of your diagnosis, making sure that you know how you're going to access a case manager. You know how you can access a healthcare advocate. You know how these pieces can come into play proactively before you have, you've reached that point and you have to scramble at the last minute because I didn't know this was going to be a part of it. So using advanced care planning to, one, establish a healthcare directive, but two, proactively identify those, I call it connecting the dots, making sure that you are able to identify and know what resources you're going to need down the road and have those connectors set up proactively, so it's not a last minute scramble for you. We can also, in some circumstances, act as that healthcare advocate. So that's someone to, if you otherwise wouldn't have transportation to a medical appointment, we can help you establish that transportation. We can't drive you, but we can help you establish that just to make sure that you're going to get to those appointments. If you don't know what questions to ask the doctor, we can sit and offer consultation on, here, let's iron out some questions for the doctor. We can sit with you in the appointment to make sure that those questions are asked of the doctor, and we can document the responses from the doctor and sit with you at a later point to say, let's rehash what the doctor said and make sure that you understand that in plain language. So a healthcare advocate can come into play in many different ways. It's kind of like that healthcare agent plus, right? So that would be our advanced care planning line. We also offer what I would call transitional coordination. So these are the more intensive services of someone who maybe is getting regular calls to adult protection or seeing a lot of regular hospitalizations, right? Emergency, or a lot of visits to the emergency room. Something's going on that could be pointing toward crisis, and that crisis comes along with the potential for guardianship or conservatorship. We want to avoid that, or we want to be able to best mitigate for a plenary guardianship. So we want to put someone into place that will, as closely as possible, be able to pull the pieces together that otherwise would be pulled together by a guardian without that guardianship. So we can support this person through this transition and best stabilize them. Once that stabilization has taken place, we then put them into the hands of what I would call a true form supported decision maker, but I'm just going to call it supported decision making from now on, because this is the person that enters into an ongoing capacity with the person served to just meet with them once a week, once every other week, to make sure, hey, how are things going? What's going on in your life? What do we need to pull together the resources for to make sure that this is going okay? What do you choose? How did that go? Do we need to incorporate any other resources here? So doing that supported decision making in an ongoing manner after the transitional coordinator has pulled this person out of this crisis scenario. So those are a few of the other opportunities that LSS has offered. We're experiencing a lot of success. We got an extension over the last year. So we are continuing to do this through the coming year. If you have any questions about that, I am happy to take them. Yeah, feel free to reach out to me. So a little bit of an abrupt ending, but so, yeah.
That's right. I think we'll go back and is there any questions from any attendees?
Are these available in all counties, these services?
So we have people all over the state. I cannot promise that we have them in all counties, but I am happy to hear out, and I am happy to try to get people to serve. I do know that in Itasca County and the surrounding areas, we do have supporters. So it is likely that Arrowhead will have someone in your area, the Arrowhead region.
Any other questions? I like to leave it long enough for people to get uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll say, I can speak specifically to we can do a lot with a phone call. So that, we can talk to anyone in the state over the phone, and that consultation service, it is so important just to be able to talk through. This is the scenario that we're facing. Having our educational navigator talk through. We're looking at guardianship, or we're thinking about it, or someone told us about it. Again, it's so important to just put our foot in the door of that door closing on someone's right to decision making. And that can mean many different things. If it is even entering the conversation, I would love to be able to talk with someone about what else we can do or what other options are available. So that doesn't need a county to be attached to it. That can just be, call us. We can have a phone call with anyone across the state. I guess you have to have a phone. So that would be maybe you don't even need a phone. We'll figure something out. Yeah. So just need to be able to talk, right? So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ryan, so much for sharing your valuable insights with us today. Your expertise really has provided us with some really valuable information that we can use both in our lives and in our work.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
To our attendees, we're grateful for your time and engagement today. We know that you have a lot of options how you spend your time, and so we appreciate the fact that you choose to spend your time with us. Our upcoming webinars, again, we have October 15th. We have Your Ride to Independence: Navigating Transit in the Arrowhead Region. On November 19th, Estate Planning with Justice North. Coming up on December 17th, we have one on combating social isolation as we age. And you can register for these sessions on our website at arrowheadaging.org. You can also follow us on Facebook for updates and announcements. If you have any questions about today's presentation or suggestions for future topics, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. We are also already planning our series of 2026 webinars, and would love to hear your ideas for topics. And what things would be most valuable to you, your families, your clients, and on your caregiving journey. So thank you for being part of our webinar series. We look forward to seeing you next month. And until then, we wish you continued success in all your endeavors and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much.